Wonders, Unit 5, Week 4. This week's essential question is, how does technology lead to discoveries? We're going to be reading the expository text Planet Hunter, Jeff Marcy and the Search for Other Earths by Vicki Oransky-Wittenstein. As the sun sets on the summit of Mauna Kea, a dormant volcano on the big island of Hawaii, golden light bathes the huge domes anchoring each end of a narrow white building. A halo of orange, pink, and magenta swirls overhead, while below waves of clouds form a blanket so thick and wide that it looks like an ocean. The weather on the shore is hot and humid, but here at almost 14,000 feet above sea level, temperatures rapidly drop below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, even in the summer. No trees or plants grow on the rounded hills. Coffee-colored lava and gray cinder cover the mountaintops and crunch underfoot as workers arrive. Except for the occasional howl of the wind, all is silent. As is often the case in expository text, the author has included a photograph to help me understand more what I'm reading about. I can see in the picture the twin domes they talk about, those round things here. I can't really see the thin white building between them, but I can imagine that it's there. It looks so desolate and empty, but I guess that's probably a really good place to put a telescope because, let's face it, if you put a telescope down in the middle of the city, all the lights from the surrounding buildings would make lots of light pollution and make it difficult to see up in the sky. When the sky begins to darken, a loud buzzer warns any technicians walking on the decks and catwalks inside the domes. A motor drones as the top and bottom shutters of one of the domes open. The dome rotates, rumbling like a train on its as its steel wheels roll along a track at the base. One of the twin telescopes at the W.M. Keck Observatory points to the stars. The night's viewing is about to begin. There are two things to point out in this paragraph. First of all, when you are reading or writing expository text, it's important to pay attention to sequence. In this paragraph, they tell us several events that take place just as the sky darkens. First, a loud buzzer warns the technicians. Then a motor opens the shutters of one of the domes. If something drones, it makes a soft noise that's kind of steady, rather like the sound of a refrigerator. After that, the dome rotates, and finally, the telescope points to the sky. Another thing to take notice of here is the way that the author has used the simile, rumbling like a train, to help us really imagine the way the dome is rotating. Skillful authors use pieces of author's craft, figurative language like similes, in order to put better pictures in our heads. Moving on. Farther down the mountain, about 2,000 feet above sea level, lies the W.M. Keck Observatory headquarters. From there, astronomers can operate the telescope using real-time video connection between headquarters and the observatory. Tonight, Dr. Jeffrey W. Marcy, an astronomer who hunts for planets, is at headquarters. Jason McIlroy, an observing assistant, mans the telescope on the summit. Ooh, the guy who has all the credentials, the doctor, he gets to stay down where it's nice and warm. The observing assistant, he has to be way up in that observatory. Mist hides the sky from headquarters, but Jeff Marcy isn't worried. He studies a computer screen that details the weather conditions at the summit. Wow, the viewing is excellent, Jason, Marcy says into a microphone. Here's another example of author's craft woven into this expository text. Probably Dr. Marcy does not remember exactly what he said on that night. Quite probably the author wasn't there to hear about it. But by weaving the dialogue into the expository text, the author makes the situation come alive for us. Another feature of expository text is including captions with pictures. We're going to look at those next. For this picture up here, again showing a very empty view, gentle hills in the background at right dot the remote summit of Mauna Kea. They are known as Pu'u in Hawaiian. That just helps me to visualize where they are. Now we're going to learn more about the telescope. The Keck 1 telescope peers through the dome opening into the starry night. The Keck 1 and Keck 2 telescopes are the largest twin optical telescopes in the world. Marcy uses the Keck 1. That helps me to really understand what it's like there. It's an optical telescope, so I know that means it has to do with lenses. Down here, they're introducing us to Marcy. Astronomers like Marcy no longer look directly through a telescope eyepiece. Oh, that's interesting. That's what I always picture when I think of somebody looking through a telescope. Instead, a device similar to a digital camera records the image in the telescope. The image is transmitted to computers for analysis. That makes a lot of sense. I know that when they did have to look through the eyepiece of a telescope, astronomers frequently drew what they saw. When I'm drawing, it's really easy to make mistakes, so I would imagine that a digital picture of what they see would be a lot more reliable. Then you can use a computer and get lots more data analyzed. As you continue to read this story, look for how sequence builds up to make this narrative text so that you're sure you understand. It jumps around a little bit. Make sure you're using the text features to help you understand the main thrust of the narrative. And look for examples of good authors' craft, such as using similes, metaphors, and weaving dialogue into this expository.